joining in today. I hope everyone's had a good week. I hope everyone had a good Friday. Yes, Yakbit, exactly. Blessed Friday to all, 100%. How did we do? Are we green on the week? Are we red on the week? Are we break even on the week? And then how did we do today? It's been a pretty tricky week for me, I'm not going to lie. I've hit a lot of break even days, taken 2 trades and in a day. First trade's a loss, second trade's a win. If I can, like yesterday, I was able to catch 0.8 on that second trade, so 1.8. So I was able to make back the loss and then also make some gains on that. Today was a couple of eval trades, so we're gonna go over all that stuff. Honestly, pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff to talk about. Stella moved to live this week. Amazing. Congratulations. How are you finding the have you noticed any difference? I find sometimes it's like our psychology that plays into these changes. I remember when, I would move from eval to funded like when I first started to get to that stage. The psychology used to screw me right up. Like my trades just all of a sudden I stopped trading properly for some reason. So I always find there's always a psychological element to this thing, which we all know about. So all right, well, let's get to it. So here's the plan for today. We'll do a quick market rundown. We'll go over like bias and just kind of see what we're dealing with. There's a couple trades I took today. The first was a short reversal. It was kind of a scalp. I tried to catch the momentum, just get in for a quick 1R and get out, or even a little less. And then there was obviously the long that was taken, and it was based off some different types of criteria. Basically number 3, which I have on my screen. But as I did some more review, I noticed that the actual setup did play out, like an actual IFVG that I would have taken. But because I was already committed in the eval trade, I just left it. So we're going to go through all this stuff right now. Let's start off with, what we'll do is we'll start off with CL, and then we'll go to GC, and then we'll end on NQ, because a lot of the stuff with NQ involves the trades and whatnot. I can kind of do everything one shot. So today, in terms of CL, we're basically, this is the 6 to 10 a.m. candle. I was anticipating this candle to hold the internal range liquidity here, which would then mean we're looking for a move from internal to external. So I had a bullish bias today on CL. So if we go to the 50-minute and just look to see what we had going on here. So here is 9:30 open, and price is kind of moving through all of these FVGs here, right? So, and then you can see price just continue to go lower and then reclaim it. So there is these imbalances here. They're tucked away. There's a couple of small ones here. Let's just go to the 1 minute and see if anything ended up forming. So when I say anything ended up forming, we could be looking for unicorns. We could be looking for IFVGs. We could be looking for swing failure patterns. It just depends on whatever your entry trigger is. So just observing the price here, you can see, we're getting that unicorn 2022 mentorship model type pattern. We can see nothing confirms here. Same thing over here, nothing confirms. And then ultimately we get this move here. So breaker block is right here in review. And what you'll also notice is the breaker block's pretty high, right? So that's number 1. Typically with these breaker blocks, you want to see them lower, right? Somewhere around where this is. So you see how we have this formation, or even this formation. You see how much closer the breaker block is located to the sweep. That's ideally what we want to see. But if you did use this as a breaker block on CL, it looks like you may have got front run by, my goodness, let's just take a look. So that's 100.9, and this is 100. Okay, so you would have got tagged in on an entry there. Potentially, just depends on if there was any sort of, I guess you could say that there's a volume imbalance here and here, so that counts as like the FVG even here. So you would have got tagged in right there for a breaker block entry confirming a unicorn. The other thing you can see here is we have a swing failure pattern, right? And then, of course, IFVGs are lined up. So a few different entry triggers were available to take on CL today, and that would have resulted in a win. So that's CL basically in a nutshell. Super easy, nothing complicated there. Go to the 4 hour on GC. My bias today on GC. So what I had mentioned in my thread. Let me just pull the Discord here for a sec. Perfect. Let's go to the higher time frame bias. Okay, so for CL this morning, Alice, what's up? So this morning at 8:44, I had put biases together on GC and NQ and CL. For CL at 8:44, this is what it looked like. Okay, so looking at it pre-market, we got to kind of speculate like what's going to happen, right? So if I was to speculate what's going to happen, I'd be looking. Oh, sorry, this is CL. Let me go to GC because we already did CL. GC's right here. My bad. This is what we're dealing with. So looking at what's happening here, there's a bearish FVG here. There's a bullish FVG here. That means price is sandwiched. Meaning we got to kind of wait to see what happens at 10 a.m. because we want to know how this 6 to 10 a.m. candle is going to close. Does it close like respecting the bearish FVG, or does it invalidate it, right, and completely disrespect it? If we look back at what happened yesterday, the idea was that internal range liquidity had been swept up here, and that we're looking for price to move lower to the sell side liquidity. So let's take a look and see what happened. And as we can see, that 6 to 10 a.m. candle actually invalidates the bearish move. So the bearish bias that I was projecting did not play out, which is fine. So what do you do in these types of scenarios? Well, if the bearish bias fails because we're invalidating it, you then have to start looking at other types of liquidity resting above. So what does that mean? Well, we have a H4 buy side liquidity level there, and then we of course have the internal range liquidity up here as well. So let's just say we have that bullish bias now because it's invalidated the bearish FVG. What does that look like? Is there an entry? How can we play this? So 10 a.m. is about right here. Now, here's the issue. At 10 a.m. when the candle confirms that the basically that the bearish bias should be invalidated, we're actually already tagging into bearish higher time frame liquidity. Okay, so that becomes a bit of a problem. Let's just go back to the 4 hour for a sec. So this is 6 to 10. I'm not sure why it's showing it like this. It's showing that maybe it was right at 10. Let me go back to the 15 for a sec. 9:45. So this would have been, okay, so I stand corrected. This candle right here, the 15-minute, 9:45 closes at 10. So that means this candle right here confirms the invalidation. The next candlestick, which is basically our 10 to 10:15 candle, takes the next H4 candle into the bearish ranges. So there really isn't any sort of bullish alignment here. And if anything, if you're looking to flip bearish because price is now entering that bearish FVG on the higher time frame, I would probably side more on the bearish side at this point because we're up here, right? You don't want to long from bullish FVGs, or sorry, you don't want to long from bearish FVGs or above liquidity in the sense of the buy side liquidity, right? Iman, what's up, brother? Good to see you. So let's just go to the 1 minute. Maybe something stands out for us here. And if we look at it from this perspective, once again, we have a breaker block that's positioned, a pretty good distance away from the actual swing point. And like I said, for me, from a unicorn perspective, not really sure I like that. I prefer to see breaker blocks positioned higher. So what does that mean? It means that you got a massive IFVG formed here. If we go to the 2 minute, maybe the 3 minute, something kind of makes some sense. Let me just take a quick peek. So that's not singular. I'd probably use the 3 minute. Yeah, I'd probably use the 3 minute just because the IFVG would have been marked higher. So your entry would have been right about here. Let's just delete this breaker block because I don't think it's valid. But you can see the IFVG forms here, and you do get a move lower into a drawn liquidity which is an imbalance right here. So there was technically a setup there, and then depending on how you set your stop loss, if you set it up at the high, that's 22 points. If you're looking for 1R, you're going to miss. If you start to, measure this a little lower, maybe you're going to use the open of this candlestick right about here, then you would definitely hit 1R, and that would have been a successful trade. And then, of course, if you just move your stop loss even lower, it would have still worked out, right? Like sometimes people use, like a point or two above the IFVG, and then that also would have, once again, you would have hit that 1R. So there's a good alignment there in terms of price action and what to do. I think when we're looking at price and things are kind of not making sense, the best thing you can do is take like a step back and look to see what is price doing right now, and then go back to our core basics of understanding, are we inside of a higher time frame bearish FVG? Are we sweeping higher time frame buy side liquidity? If we are, then we should be aligning to short. If it's the opposite, then we should be looking to long. This is a great segue because we can move to NQ, because NQ today was absolutely ripping. So if we look at the H4, in the morning, it was a pretty easy bias to have, truth be told, because this is what it looked like, and price at 8:34 in the morning. How do I define singular IFVGs? Let me show you. Okay, so let's just, before I go back to NQ, let's just look at this for 2 seconds. Okay, so in this scenario, you have the IFVG here, okay? Now you can see that there's a gap here, and a gap here. So technically, if you look at this, depending on where your stop loss is, this is about 0.4.6 R, okay? Now, to me, you would say this is a non-singular setup because you have FVG stacked against you, and there's no telling what price is going to do. Like it could, literally bounce right like this and then go higher, and that's the whole point of singular versus non-singular. However, if you feel the momentum is on your side, and this is hitting at about 0.46, right? So let's just say, you do take a trade at that point, right? So once price hits this level, you could move your stop loss to break even, just to play it safe, right? I don't know what's going to happen next, but you could see here, if you did, you get stopped out. The whole idea is that you're trying to catch a fast move lower, but given the size of the FVG, the IFVG, and then given that you're also on the 3-minute time frame, you might want to give yourself some room to breathe. If it was the 1-minute time frame, it would be a little bit different, right? So let's just check out the 1 minute for a sec. But you can see that it's a pretty huge range, right? And you can see it's just like staircase here. So when we're on the 3-minute time frame, you might want to, once again, give the setup a little bit more room to breathe. So that means instead of moving your stop loss to break even right away, you would just let it breathe. You would just chill, right? You would wait to see how price reacts, right? Does it come back into the FVG? Because as you can see what happens after that, that was like faking you out. And then there's your TP there, right? And the other thing I'll say about this too is specific assets will move differently than other assets, right? Every asset, so NQ, GC, CL, they all have their own personality. And if you understand the personality of the asset, then you can start to make these types of intuitive decisions. And yes, you have a mechanical process that's saying, hey, if it's non-singular, I'm going to skip the trade. However, if you have that intuition, you can start to make like real-time decisions. And like I said to you earlier, just a second ago, you could have used intuition just given that it's a 3-minute time frame and you want to let the price just have a chance to breathe. Wait to see what happens, right? Do we get closures above here? If we do, maybe you want to cut the trade because maybe this FVG here is being respected, right? And I'll just mark it like this, right? Maybe that FVG is being respected. So if that's what I would say. If it was NQ, however, in this situation, I mean, I probably would have skipped it. just because NQ has a way of just reversing half the time. And I mentioned this also another day on the chat, probably yesterday. And I said that, with setups where there are FVGs stacked, like say below your entry in this case, ideally I want to see the most smooth V-shaped recovery ever, or in this case V-shaped rejection, right? I don't want to see consolidation or slowness. I want to see immediate reaction. I want to see immediate volatility going against that trend, because what that tells me then is that there is a good chance that the momentum will carry the price lower. Now, if you recall, I said this about NQ the other day, and I'd shared that chart in my chat. And yeah, Ema, we're adding personality now. We're adding personalities. Okay, so anyways, I hope that answers the question there, brother. Let's go to NQ. And like I said, with NQ, this morning when I showed up to the chart at 8:34, I put the bias together. I mean, it was pretty simple. I love it when we look at the H4 and we're trying to figure out bias. If it's this simple, I love it to be like this. This is perfect. And I always say, like, when you're trying to identify bias on a higher time frame, like, you should be able to figure it out pretty quickly. And if you can't, that's a flag, right? That tells us that we need to be a little bit more cautious because the price isn't as clear as we would hope for it to be. When we look at NQ right now, this is pretty damn clear. We have an H4 FVG, which is internal range liquidity, and price, we want to see price move from there to the ERL, which is the H4 buy side liquidity, previous all-time high. If we just go back to the chart, take a look at NQ. So at 8:34, I showed you what it looked like, and then literally by the time that candle closed, especially I think it was around open, price just ripped through it, right? So Asia high was the previous all-time high. You can see at about 9:15 we're still underneath. At 9:30 we have blast off. We have fireworks, right? All it says, is bias really that important since you would and I would short if we were at a good level above daily EQ? You know what, Alice, the thing with the IFVG model and the way I trade it and the way I talk about it, and I guess you could say I'm teaching it, using higher time frame bias is, of no consequence. I do think it's important to understand the higher time frame context regardless, though, because it's just going to overall give you more perspective on what the price is doing and then where projections could lie. It never hurts to have that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm using that to frame my trade, but it never hurts to just kind of have that in the back of your head, because when I trade with the IFVG model, I'm not using H4 higher time frame, analysis, whether it's ERL or RL. I'm literally just looking at the daily EQ, and then I'm aligning higher time frame ERLs on the right side of that line. Appreciate you, Sweaty Spaghetti. I still love your name. Yeah, so that's my explanation or why I'm doing it. The other thing too is I mentioned this last week, but I created a higher time frame bias channel for myself because I wanted to show up early. I wanted to get to work. I wanted my mind to already start getting on the side of what I'm looking for with trading. Like, there's nothing worse than waking up and immediately going to the charts and you're rushing and you're not in check with what's happening in the market. I would equate this similar to an athlete, right? An athlete doesn't just show up, let's take a hockey player, for example. Like, a hockey player doesn't just show up to the rink 10 minutes before they're supposed to hit the ice in the game and just quickly get into the room, change, and then head up on the ice and start playing. They're at the rink a few hours earlier. They're warming up. They're stretching. They might be going over, some review about the team that they're playing against, right? You understand what I'm saying? There's a routine involved here, and there's also preparation involved here. And I would say that's why I started doing the hard time frame analysis again, is because I want to get back into the preparation before the market opens. There's nothing worse than being confused when the market opens or being flustered or overwhelmed, because that's just going to lead to really, really bad decision making. Okay? And exactly, Alice, you got to get mentally and physically prepared. Like, we're going to work here, right? We're going to war. Literally. I think you nailed it there by saying that, right? You got to get mentally and physically prepared. And there's no better way to do that than getting up early, getting on the chart, making sure you have, for me, I love drinking coffee. I'm going to make sure I have my cup of coffee with me. I'm going to make sure, I've gone to the washroom before the market opens, things like that, right? You gotta get mentally and physically prepared because it is a war. Okay, so back to NQ, blast off at open. Okay, and when we're looking at this at open, the only thing I really had to work with, and I'll just go to the daily check-in on the 20 trade challenge, because every day I post also this, so you can see here 8:37. I like to post my check-in on the challenge. You can totally look at this every day. I post when I do post it, like I make notice about it, so you'll always be able to see it if you just want to kind of compare notes and things. But this morning, this is all I had to work with. There's an Asia high, there's a H1 sell side liquidity level here, and then there's a previous daily low here. That's it, 3 levels to work with in terms of like the textbook side of the operation. So if we go back to NQ, we literally ripped through the Asia high here, okay? And I had said that, in my thread, and I'll go back to it just so you can see. Let me see, where are we? Daily trading. So I have a section called daily trading. If you just go back to the beginning here, and it is May 1st, right? So we are starting a new month here. Right here, perfect. So I mentioned here at about just before 10, I said, look, there's a couple ideas that you can have here. The first one is taking a long off of the daily EQ retest. Okay, so just showing you what I mean. Price is so far overextended. The last thing I feel like anyone wants to do is short. It just seems silly to try to short a trend that looks like this. So the best thing to do is to get on side with the trend. How do you get on side with the trend? Well, you have to align specifics of your criteria with what price is doing. And if that means you have to sit on your hands and wait, then that's what it means. If it means nothing happens and there's no trading, so be it. You still have to stick to your rules no matter what. You can't force anything. And this is an important thing to learn, because I can't tell you how many times I've experienced FOMO, and I still do experience FOMO, and I make mistakes. But in the past, the FOMO would kind of take over my logic, and I would just try to do stupid things. And of course, when you try to do stupid things on the chart, you're going to end up with stupid results. And that usually means liquidated accounts, or just, losing trades specifically. But this is what I was looking for. Tap of the daily EQ. I always talk about the daily EQ being a huge support and resistance line that we can form trades off of. So because price had extended so far above that level, it's fitting that we should see something retrace. And if anyone remembers, I did say, what did I say here? You guys would probably be like, what are you talking about? Maybe it was in the Gen chat. I said basically, nothing goes up forever. And that was in relationship to what I was talking about, right? I was looking for price to come back lower. So waiting for price to come back lower, let's examine what happens. Let me hit replay. Let's just come back here. Okay, so we're looking to see what happens with price. Now, I'd mentioned another type of idea, which is a continuation play. I don't mean to mix a lot of what I want to talk about together, but it is kind of all correlated. So if I go too fast, just stop me if you have a question. I'm going to try my best to organize my thoughts as properly as I can without confusing everybody. So on NQ, because we're so high up in with price being above the daily Q, I have no idea if the daily Q is going to get tagged number 1. Okay, so what does that mean? That means now I know that there is a 50-minute FVG here, and I know that there is a 15-minute FVG way down here, right? So part of this continuation idea is playing off of higher time frame FVG. So in this case, it's a 15-minute, and then looking for SMT and an IFVG entry trigger, right? So a lot of the same stuff, slight adjustments, right? Because it's a continuation play. Now I'm also looking at NQ and ES at this point too, because if I just hit replay here, let's go to about, here. Okay, so you'll see the left and the right. You'll see my cursor. So on ES is on the right here. You can see as price starts to move lower into those FVGs. Let me just hit next here. Okay, so right about here, okay, you can see that ES and NQ are both a good distance away from the daily EQ. So if I'm looking for that textbook funded play, I really don't have anything to work with, okay? However, if I'm going to play off the 50-minute FVG, there could be something there for me to work with, because ES was also tapping into an hourly FVG, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe that was a little lower. Let me go back to the 15. Yeah, so you can see that it's tapping into a 15-minute FVG here, right? Okay, so let's just go back to NQ with the main chart. So I'm just going to hit next. And then right here, price at 10:30 moves deeper into this FVG and then just tags the lip of the lower FVG. So what are we doing in this situation? Well, this is where that setup comes in now. And this is the second trade I took. The first trade I took was actually right here. And I was eyeing the short. And, you know, I did say earlier, trying to short is just stupid. Like, it just seems silly. But the thing is, I needed price to come down in order to go long. So I thought, you know, if momentum is going to drive price lower, maybe I can capitalize on that. The thing is, I would not even attempt a trade unless there was SMT. The second I saw the SMT with all this happening, I thought, maybe I will jump into this trade. Maybe I will. So let me go back to my thread, and I'll show you what I saw. So right here, actually, where is it? Okay, that's not the trade. Bias is marked. There was a pre-market setup. I just remembered now. Let me see if I can find this. Okay, right here. So at about 9:43, I said, hey, blind short opportunity. There's nothing here though, right? There's no SMT. There's nothing. 9:53, 2-minute time frame. Starting to notice that there is a potential IFVG. Is there SMT? No SMT forms. Let's just go a little bit lower. Okay, right here. So then at 10:31, this happened really quick. Okay, so this was that 2-minute setup. The 2-minute setup was actually lower. This is actually, the price moves up higher, and then we see that 1-minute FVG form here. Now this is super tight. I wasn't even going to take this. I know I have it marked here, but keep in mind, there's no SMT up until this wick. So once the SMT formed, then I started to get on alert again, because I thought, hey, the 50-minute FVG, which I want price to move into so I can find a long, hasn't been targeted yet. So what does that mean? It means it's a draw on liquidity. Okay, so if I can start seeing invalidations up here, maybe I can jump into something on the way down. So let me go back to this chart here, and the setup is basically, if I just mark it, here's the FVG. And keep in mind, you know, there's no liquidity involved here. This is literally just a risky trade using the fact that price has really extended a great amount, right? How many points did it actually move up? Let's just take a quick peek. So price had moved 290 points. And like I said, nothing goes up forever. There has to be some sort of a sell-off. So if there are market makers pushing the price higher and higher and higher, somebody is going to be taking profit. Somebody is going to be taking profit. And when they do, the price is going to retrace. So the key is to try to capitalize on that retracement if you can. I'm not saying it's the safe thing to do. It's why I took it on eval. On eval is where you take risks. Funded accounts, I do not take risks. I have to see A+ setups on my evals. On my funded accounts. Now, going back to this setup, I was identifying the SMT, and then I started seeing price close through here, and you see these wicks. Price is rejecting the underside of the IFVG. Okay. Now, if I know that the actual entry trigger was this level right here, I'll just mark it as IFVG. What this did was it gave me a line in the sand. Okay, so my entry literally comes on the close of this level right here. Okay, so once this candle closes, I hit market order buy or sell. I'm entered on this candle. Do I know what's going to happen? Of course not. I have no idea what's going to happen. All I know is my goal was to just enter up here, take profit down here. Go back to the chart. This is exactly what I did. I market ordered here, and then once price moved lower, I noticed that I hit that like that RR that I was looking for. I just manually sold. Right? I was happy with what I got. It's on eval. Usually on eval too is I'll risk more money than I normally do on a funded. So on a funded account, I'm probably risking, around 250 to 300. On eval plays, I'm risking probably closer to $500. So the second I start seeing $400 to $500, on a trade like this, I'm going to hit sell, right? I don't need to worry. Now, obviously in hindsight, we could say, oh, you should have held longer, but I have no idea price is going to do this. You know what I'm saying? I have no idea. I was saying 3 minute. Maybe I misunderstand what you're saying in 3 minute. Oh, you also said something else. Let me just read that. Yes. Would you consider the first one a mistake? Would you take it again? Oh, profit in 3 minutes. Yeah, that's the other thing too, right? Like, we got to measure our own greed. And when is enough enough? For me, I base a lot of my decision making off of a dollar value. Like, if I hit a specific dollar amount, I'm okay with, whatever that is, right? I don't need to aim for that perfection of did I get 1R? Did I get 2R? And, stuff like that. When you manually take profit though, you have to already be, you have to already accept the outcome that price could go further, right? And you're not a part of it. But of course, when price reverses right where you take TP, you're going to start feeling really good about yourself, right? Now you said, would you consider the first one a mistake? Are you talking about this short? I just want to make sure. Or are we talking about that pre-market setup? Yeah, okay. I wouldn't say this is a mistake at all, because my whole point of taking the short idea in the first place was looking for SMT, right? So like I said, there was SMT, and price was extended almost 300 points from the open. That is a massive move higher. We have to see a retracement. What better place to find the retracement than seeing two 50-minute FVGs below? Now, was there an hourly FVG here? No, it was a 50-minute. I think it was ES that had the hourly FVG, which I'll show you guys in a sec because it relates to the setup. So yeah, that's the short that I took. It's not a mistake. It's a calculated risk, and I took it on eval. Okay? I didn't take it on funded, and it's just to prove my point. If I took this on my funded account, this goes against my A+ criteria, right? There's no higher time frame liquidity sweep. Being number one, right? And because that's not there, I'm already breaking a rule by taking that trade on funded. So, took it on eval, and I was rewarded. So that was that first setup. Now, price is starting to move lower, okay? And this now moves into the next setup, which is the second setup that I took. And I also took this on eval because, once again, when the setup kind of played out, started to form, the actual A+ criteria for me wasn't there. In review, I did notice the A+ criteria did work, but it was very risky to take, and it did occur, I believe, after a specific time range, so I probably even still wouldn't have taken it on my funded anyways. I would have wanted to catch a move earlier. So this leads into the second setup, which also leads into my conversation about how to best trade continuation IFVGs. I've been trying so hard to figure out the best way to do this. I've studied off some of the best IFVG traders, at least that I'm aware of. So, these are guys like Dodgy. These are guys like Jade Cap, or I think even Kane was trading them at one point. And then, of course, Tempo Trades, who to me is the best one. He is probably I'll give all credit to him too, because a lot of how I put things together with the IFVGs is because of him. I understood IFVGs fully to a certain extent, but there was some pieces that just weren't making sense to me because I would see them not being respected. And when I started studying off of Tempo, that's when I kind of realized, these are the misses to what I'm doing, and unlocked some additional pieces. Now, one thing I will say is this dude is an incredible continuation trader. There are trades he takes that I don't take, and then there's trades sometimes I take that I know he hasn't taken. Okay, so there's no copying or anything like that. But what I find amazing, and similar to you guys that are taking trades in the Gen Chat, you're taking the same IFVG trades I'm taking. Well, guess what? You're taking the same IFV trades that guys like Tempo and maybe even Dodgy are taking, except you don't know because you're not following them, right? Like you're not watching what they're doing, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. My point here is that when you're able to kind of put these setups together without, holding the hand of someone else, that is such a huge W. That means you have learned the concepts, you've trained your eyes to see those concepts play out on the chart, and then you've also got the confidence to believe in yourself to take that trade. Huge W. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. I started studying off him a little bit more so in terms of understanding the continuation plays, and it did help in terms of understanding draw and liquidity and things like that. However, still, as I mentioned to you guys before, like a week or so ago, I'm like, I'm still struggling with like the confidence in wanting to even take a continuation trade. So I went back to the drawing board, and there's a trader I'm friends with. His name is Colin Jones, and I've always been amazed with how he's traded IFVGs. Now, I don't trade IFVGs exactly like him because I'm a reversal trader. But what I started noticing, he had posted a video on YouTube recently, and it was about the stat map. And I've studied him with the stat map before, and I love how he uses the stat map. I have talked about this before in previous live streams, like ages ago. But I decided to kind of go back to it because I know that he relies on the stat map, and he also incorporates SMT with FVGs. And I had like a light bulb go off that told me, hey, this is the answer to the continuation setup problem I'm having. So the setup I took today is basically a continuation play. It's very similar to how Colin trades. I don't know what his model's called. I think it's called the Trinity model or something like that. But yeah, anyways, shout out to Colin. Another, G in the space. And the thing too, is like, you got guys that are so smart out there, and they've put so much effort in putting information out there, and it's our job to, if we're still learning, to learn and study and practice and then transform it into something that makes sense to us. And that's kind of what I've done and what I share with all you guys. So I would never say I'm taking credit for anything. I'm not. But what I'm doing is I'm getting really good at understanding which concepts and which criteria make the most sense to me and that make me profitable. And that's what you're seeing in all of these live streams, right? A repeatable process in that way. So let's get to the setup and understand what was going on with this. The first thing I had to do was I used the stat map. Okay, now this is a paid indicator by 2 degrees. And I'd mentioned this, in the thread. So you don't need to sub or anything like this, unless you really want to. Then you can click the link in my bio, and you can sub to 2 degrees, get the IFVG indicator, get the stat map. It's all there for you. Let's go back to this. Okay, so right here, let me see where we are. I post so much. I apologize. You're going to just have to bear with me. Okay, so I had mentioned right here, at 9:37, I said I'm going to keep an eye on the stat map manipulation levels to see how price action closes at 10 a.m. Okay, now why am I doing this? Well, when you're using the stat map, There's a couple ways that you can use it in terms of like how to read it. And the way I'm reading it is very simple. If price closes above this manipulation level, then my anticipation is that price is going to want to move higher. It's going to want to expand to the 1D distribution level up here. Had price swept this level and closed back below this manipulation, this line here, then I would have been anticipating the opposite. I would have been anticipating a move back down here. Okay? So it's very simple logic. The second price closes above this level, I instantly know that I should be continuing to look for longs, which is no surprise. But this was what gave me that kind of bias, that trend filter. Okay, so I automatically knew I'm looking for longs today for sure now, especially looking at the way this closed. Like, this is just amazing. Such a bullish candle. Why did that happen? Well, if we go back to the news, there's a lot of conversation now back about peace. And as we know, the war narrative is driving price higher or lower, depending on what side is saying what. So in this situation, you know, the Pakistani mediators are responding to the latest U.S. amendments on the agreement to end the war. And then, of course, you have this one right here, Pakistani officials, Iran's latest response to the U.S., terms for a peace deal delivered to the U.S. This is all bullish news. There's nothing bearish here. So when you tie in the news to what we're doing, this is giving you so much context that we should be looking for longs today, not shorts, okay? From a fundamental or technical level. All it says, I would forever remember this April and war news. Oh, man, you know what? I feel like there's always going to be something big news-wise that we're going to remember based off of specific time periods of trading. And this is what makes, backtesting really hard to rely on in terms of that data, because each sort of component of the data being collected is based off of a specific string of information, right? Whether it's COVID, whether it's tariffs, whether it's the war, whether it's, the Russia-Ukraine war. Like, there's so many weird things going on out there, and it happens at any given moment. There's no predicting it. It's not like you can just go to Forex Factory and go, hey, today, guys, we got no red folders, so there's nothing to worry about, right? Like, those days with Biden are gone. You can't trade like that, right? Like, oh, there's an orange folder at 10. Maybe we'll see some volatility, right? That whole way of thinking with the trading, with the red folder and stuff is gone. I mean, it's still something we need to look at for time specifics, but I mean, we got Trump tweeting at any given time, right? And now this is why using sites like financialjuice.com are so important. Just put a free account together with this site and just make sure you get these notifications. But even here now, like at almost 2:00, Iran softens conditions for resuming peace talks with the U.S. It's just bullish news on bullish news. Okay, so let's go back to the setup. So this is the 1 minute time frame, and I'm just gonna back it up for a sec. Okay, so this is where we are, and looking for price to move into the FVG. So step 1 is the stat map. We determine the trend. We know we're bullish. Step 2, is there a higher time frame FVG at play here? If there is, we need to wait for price to move into this level. The second price moves into this level or this range, that's when we can move to step 3, which is looking for SMT and then, of course, the IFVG entry trigger and what that looks like. So I'm going to keep hitting next. And I use this indicator right here, SMT divergences V3 by out of options. The reason I use it is it just makes my life so much simpler in terms of the SMT just being marked on my screen. I don't have to constantly be looking out for it. It'll show me if it's there. And this one's really sensitive, so it shows me a lot. Highly recommend you guys to put this one on your chart. I'll just share this part here with you so you can see it. SMT divergence V2 out of options. Like I said, it's super sensitive. But as you can see, price continues lower. and then we get SMT. Okay, so the second this fires off, I'm making sure it's happening inside of a higher time frame FVG, and as you can see, it tags the lip of this lower 50-minute FVG. Nothing happens in here. So what does that mean? Delete. Okay, so the time right here is 10:37. Let's just go back to the split screen, and let's just go to 10:37. So 10:37 is right there. I'm going to hit next. Okay, right there. So here's 10:37. Now at 10:37, as price on the left here is this NQ is dipping into the 50-minute FVG, ES is moments away from tagging the daily EQ. Okay. Meanwhile, we know that NQ is still quite a ways away from tagging that level. So right off the bat, you know this is not a daily EQ play. We talk about the daily EQ. We want to see price tag it and then move higher as a support and resistance level. That's not this, okay? So right here, 10:37, we don't get the tag. I'm just going to keep hitting next, though. Now here's another SMT that forms here at the lows, okay? That would have been right here. And then price moves higher. And then right about here, it should sweep it right there. Okay, so after 11 o'clock, we get the daily EQ sweep. And if we look to the left in this structure right here, you can see that there is a visible SMT, right? NQ is making a higher low, ES is making a lower low. This is really good news for that long trade, which set up here, okay? Let's go back to the chart over here. Now, at 10:37, when we get this move lower, keep in mind, ES hasn't tagged the daily EQ, okay? So in the thread, I was messaging saying, you know, we got to be cautious because the daily EQ has not been tagged. And I've been sharing charts all morning long with everybody, with everything I'm looking for. If you want to follow me, this is the place to do it because I'm literally posting in real time because I have thoughts all day long. But, you know, I'm looking for that move into the FVG. Okay. Now, there was a volume imbalance that we looked at, but I'm going to negate that because NQ didn't have the volume imbalance. MNQ did. Scratch that. So here's the short, and then price starts moving into the 50-minute FVG, which is the first one, and then we have the second one, okay? So at 10:35, this is, 10:35, 10:37, this is that play, right? So you can see I've marked off the 15-minute FVG being tagged. I'm showing you that there's a 1-minute IFVG. Now you're going to look and say, well, hey, right here, that's a non-singular setup. And you're 100% right. But here's the thing. When it comes to these types of continuation plays, there's two things I'm not using. I'm not worrying about singular versus non-singular, and I'm not worrying about where the daily EQ is to form a bias. My bias and my trend was formed off of the stat map, which told me be bullish until that higher manipulation level, the higher distribution level is taken. Form continuation trades with SMT at 50-minute bullish FVGs. Okay? And I had mentioned here, PA hasn't tagged the daily EQ on either asset. Okay? So this is what I was showing you earlier, but now you're seeing it when I posted at 10:40. Okay? Huge risk involved here because to me it's a bit unknown. I don't know what's going to happen, but I've been studying up on this type of trading, and it's been very, very it's worked out very, very well. Even when, it looks like the trade's going to hit stop loss, it doesn't. And that's kind of what happened today, truth be told. So I did say it would be in our best interest, of course, for one of the assets to tag the daily EQ. It would have made me feel a lot better about the trade. And then basically I took this trade. Okay. So this is where I entered. Now I just want to show you this. You see this one candlestick right here? This candlestick is a candlestick I would normally front run, which means my entry would probably have been a bit lower. The problem with the entry that I had was that this candlestick printed a good distance away from the IFVG within the first 30 seconds. So I couldn't even front run it because I like to wait until there's like 20 seconds left to go before front running. And I thought, well, maybe if I wait, this will come lower and then I can tag an entry. But sure enough, it didn't do that. So once this candle closed, I waited a few seconds and I started seeing this going lower and I hit market and I thought maybe it would get me a lower entry. But of course, these fills are hilarious. It filled me way up here. It didn't fill me lower. So that's just the cost of doing business when it comes to these market orders, right? Like you never know where you're going to actually get triggered. So that was the setup. I jumped into this play. Now with this play, the stop loss has to go at the swing low. Okay? Has to go at the swing low. We're not playing these textbook style IFVGs, which I normally talk about and normally teach, because this setup is not that. This is a completely different continuation play. Finance says I took that as well. That one candle turned non-singular setup into a singular one, had to get in. That's the 50% on the NQ, on the New York range as well. So the thing here is I enter this position, I set the stop loss at the low. Okay, let's just use the actual chart to identify this. Okay, so right there. And I'll just set the IFVG and just label it. I hope everyone's following me. Hope you all understand what I'm saying. I hope I'm not going too fast. Like I said, I'm trying my best to make it coherent, put it all in sort of logical sense and order. So setup forms around here, and this was one of those FVGs that was a problem, right? I'll just mark it like this, right? So from a typical IFVG setup, how I normally trade, I would have skipped this because it's obviously non-singular. But because I'm trading in this way, I'm going to be taking these trades. So let's just say my entry is here. I want to show you something. Look at the stop loss, 76.75 points, okay? The thing is, with this type of a setup, this is how it goes. Now, if my entry was lower, then you can see that shaved off a good amount of points, right? However, my entry was pretty much somewhere like around here, so it was pretty high. TP 1R, right? That's what I was looking for, 74 points or so. And then if we go back to the NQ stat map, ideally the goal was to see price hit here, but there's no guarantees in trading, ever. So just because I have this level marked here, 27, almost 970, doesn't mean it's going to go there right away, right? Even though we had this crazy bullish candle, okay? So this is what this means is you have to stick to your plan. My plan was 1R. My plan was also, if I felt good about the money that I was seeing in the eval, I would just hit sell and I'd be fine with it. So if this thing were to just rocket ship higher, perfect. 1R, I'm laughing. If it doesn't do that, I'm going to take it manually, and I'm happy. Either way, it's a good learning lesson because this isn't a setup I typically take. I'm really trying to put this into play so I can take things like this unfunded when I don't see those liquidity sweep type setups that we normally see, right? Like an H4 ERL or H1 ERL getting swept, right? Or even if it's London or Asia high or low or previous daily high and low. If something like that doesn't sweep, I still want to have a way of getting in on a trade and catching the trend, because the big miss I had previously with the setup is like you see the trend go without you and you're like, well, how come I couldn't get into that? What's holding me back from being in position? This is what's helping me to kind of get back on side with that trend. Okay, so here's the setup. SMT with ES. We've closed above, and there's a 72 and a quarter point stop loss. Huge. Okay, let's hit next. And then we start seeing this, and then right here at 11:02, once again, this is where price on ES sweeps the daily EQ. Now, I'm just going to switch quick gears here and show you the hourly FVG. Now, I was using 50-minute FVGs. All had pointed out, hey, there's an hourly FVG there, which probably works better than a 50-minute FVG. And that's the beauty of this community. The beauty of this community is we're all looking at the same stuff. We've all showed up to work and we're all helping each other. I'm no different. I can also be helped. I'm not some sort of person you put on a pedestal. I'm just like you guys. So all this pointed that out. I was like, good look. Appreciate that. Let's go back to the 1 minute. I want to show you what this looks like. Look at the way price bounces off the daily EQ and the H1 FVG. Okay, right here. I'm just going to hit play so you can see. See the reaction? Now, if NQ had done something like that here before 11 a.m., we would have had that textbook daily EQ play, right? But it didn't do that. It didn't do that at all. It just formed a continuation play, all right? But I just wanted to show you this bounce because this bounce was exactly what we want to see. SMT forming at a higher time frame FVG. The additional confluence with ES is that it swept the daily EQ. And I had also mentioned price continues to close above the daily EQ, which is a very good sign for this trade. Because if this level had been lost, this trade is a stop loss. 100%. But because it held the line, you can see obviously price goes higher. I just want to show you, I believe I did say something like that. Let me see if I can find it. Right here. ES hasn't lost the daily EQ so far at 11:08. Okay? So me posting that is basically saying I'm still in. This trade is still good. At least for based off the criteria I've used to get in this trade. Let's go back to the chart. So this is what we're looking at. I like to extend. Let's do this. Okay, perfect. Let's just extend this further out. Let's do something like this. The other thing I'm also looking for is what type of reaction is price having on the retracement inside of the IFVG itself? Is it holding support or is it starting to lose support there and close below the IFVG? So even though we got a closure here, it doesn't mean you exit, okay? I wouldn't exit this yet. The SMT is still good. If this SMT became invalidated and you start seeing more candles starting to close below here, okay, then the trade's pretty much potentially cooked. That didn't happen. So you got to stick to your guns and just let price do what it's going to do. Because if you do, you start getting rewarded. If you panic here and sell because of even a wick like this, if you panic and sell, you miss. I didn't panic. I looked at ES. ES was holding the line. Nothing to be afraid of yet, right? And then price goes up higher like this. Now, right around here is where I took my TP. Somewhere around here, okay? I ended up taking my TP as probably somewhere a little bit over 0.5 R with the risk I took. And I'm not going to lie, I over leveraged on this trade. I think I had leveraged maybe, I think it was like, mind you, this is an eval, okay? I had another eval I used, and it was a fresh one. I was like, all right, let's just risk. I think I risked like $800 on it. The goal with evals is to pass them quick, right? You want to smash through them as fast as you can because once you get funded, you just add it to your pile of funded accounts that you're copy trading, right? That you're going to trade the right way or in a more textbook A+ way. So I had risked a lot. I saw like plus $400 on this trade. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take it because, this trade had a lot of drawdown. And now that I'm seeing the plus side, I'm happy with it. It's all good. I'm okay if it goes to 1R. I'm happy with what I got. And I'll be open and honest with you guys about what I did there, right? So here's 1R. Let's stretch this out some more. Let's hit play. And then bam. Okay, now I will also admit, around here, I had to go pick up my daughter from school. She wasn't feeling well. I had been getting text messages since market open to come pick her up. And I'm like, I can't pick you up until after 11. I'm trading. I'm also working. I need to see what happens. So I was happy with that. Went to go pick her up. While I was on the road, my alerts start firing off saying, because I had an alert set right here. I wanted to know if it would actually hit, and it did. And I was like, you know what? It's a win-win. Why is it a win-win? I made over $400 on this trade for that eval. Perfect. But the second big win with this is that the continuation setup idea that I've been talking about since yesterday, and I've been studying about this for the past week, just by myself, not really saying much to anybody. It worked. It worked perfectly. So that's a nutshell in terms of the continuation idea and how I'm putting it together. So now, if I'm going to start to bring this into my, actual, arsenal of setups, which would just give me two, I would then have a really nice reversal setup concept, and then I would also have this type of continuation setup. The thing I'll also say is I'm noticing this working at all times of the day, which is kind of scary because it gives me a bit of FOMO in the sense of like, I don't want to miss out. Like maybe I can catch other trades on evals and to pass them quicker. I've been testing it out during Asia and it worked really well. Of course, testing it with New York, it also works well, especially when situations like today unfold where you have a huge trend day and you want to get on the right side of it, right? So this is how I'm going to do it. And I'm sharing this with you. Plant some seeds, like I say. Maybe it resonates with you. Maybe it helps you figure out some things to put together. I know Ollis is someone I'm just gonna put you on the spot, but like I've noticed you taking over with a lot of these setups and really put things together. Ollis is sharing tons of charts in the Gen chat, so shout out to him. And once again, this is the beauty of this community. That's the beauty of this community. We're all in it together. We're all helping each other. Majority of us all have aligned goals. And even if our goals, like majority of our goals are not aligned, we do have one similar goal in common, which is we all want to see each other get to payouts. We all want to see each other pass accounts, right? And get to funded. I'm positive we all share that in common. So I'm really proud of, I'm proud of Ollis. I'm proud of Finus. Finus was showing he had like 20 accounts now, even though he traded for $2.50 on all those accounts. I think it was $2.50. That was amazing. But still, credit is due where it's due. And you guys are goats, no different than Matt's a goat, right? You just have to work at it and slowly, take the steps that get you to that level. Because once you're at that level, then it just becomes a psychological battle that you will have with yourself and how you execute your trades. Do you have patience? Before I would have taken trades like this on funded, and it could have been a loss, but this is now where I'm able to leverage evals now on the side when I don't feel the trade is A+. So just to put that out there. Also says, when I take a look at other communities, man, the thing I like about this community is there's no drama. 100%, man. We're all like-minded professionals here. I don't know how old everybody is. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. Maybe it's life experience. Even if you're younger, maybe it's just like life experience we've all had. Zanu, what's up, brother? But yeah, I think the way Matt, operates in the public forum, he's very professional. And like I said before, many live streams, like when I first found Matt, I thought he was a 40-year-old guy. I thought he was like somewhere in my age, bracket. And then I found out he was like 29. I was like, how are you 29 years old? You're like the most like disciplined, patient trader I've ever come across. Like how do you have this type of knowledge at 29 years old? And it's like, well, bro, I've been trading for 7 years, losing for 7 years. Right? But nonetheless, I think his work ethic, his discipline, his patience, his confidence, it attracts like-minded professionals. And truth be told, he attracted me in that way. His messaging, the learning, I've taken it and run with it. Matt is 100% my mentor from the start. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for him. And also Nate too, right? Shout out to Nate, as he helps run the back end of these communities. You guys don't even know. He's running the back end like you don't even understand. And now you got guys like Mika that are also, stepping up and, answering questions and helping people. So it just, once again, it's all about the community. It's all about trying to help each other get better and help each other to, climb the top of the mountain, man. Like I want to see everybody winning. Like when I win on a day, it only feels good if I'm looking at Gen Chat and it's like I'm seeing everyone else winning as well. I don't even care how you're winning. I just want to make sure you're winning. And that leads to the next thing which I want to talk about, which was it doesn't even matter how you're winning. If you notice, Matt didn't even trade an FVG today. Or sorry, an IFVG. He didn't trade a unicorn today. He traded an IB. But guess what? It was the same freaking setup. What does that look like? Well, here's 9:30 and here's 10:30. Which then means our high is right about here. Let me adjust my... Okay, here's the IB ranges. I'll just mark it like this so you can see it. Here's the 50. 1038 perfectly pings that level that we were looking at. And this goes to show that we're all looking at the same thing. It's just how you want to engage with the price action. What separates most of us. Now, if you're trading IFVGs, we're going to probably be seeing the same thing. But if you're not trading IFVGs, you're going to be looking for something different. Matt looked at the IB today and he nailed it with an IB trade. Now, for me, I've had some horrendous luck with IBs, which you guys all know about, which is why I took a step back from it. And I just doubled down on all the things that are working for me, right, which are IFVGs. And that's why I'm showing you what I show you, right, with the continuations and the reversals, because that's what works for me. Robert Kiyosaki has an amazing quote. It's based off of, well, I'll just say it to you this way. Follow one course until successful. If you take the first letter of each word, it spells focus. So I always kind of have that running in my head. Follow one course until successful. Why am I going to be exploring other things, taking time and energy away when I already have something that's proven profitability to me, right? So I hope that makes sense to you guys. Anyone have any questions about anything we talked about? Because I think that's about all I got for today. I'm going to keep looking out for continuation plays just to, provide proof and sample proof. If I go back to my thread, actually, maybe we can identify some of the things I was showing before. Right here. So if you guys go back to yesterday, in the evening, I paper traded this trade. So I had a 1R FVG continuation off of a 50-minute bullish FVG SMT with ES. It's the same story. It's just repeatable. I was forward testing. Here's the setup, right? Here's the play. IFVG, right at a 50-minute bullish FVG. You have SMT, and then take profit was 1R. Yeah, Zanu, it's recorded, man. I just hope there's no glitches, but it should be good. I haven't seen anything weird on my end yet, so I'll post that once I get confirmation on the recording. So yeah, this was something I posted yesterday, just kind of going off with the continuation idea, and I said, hey, I'm looking at, this is what I've been doing. And I did say it negates the idea of the daily EQ and using, the size of the IFVG. If you notice today, that FVG size was not even very big, or maybe it was big. How much was it? Oh wait, my bad. It was 15. When these candlesticks are so big, it's hard to tell, but this was 15.75 points. You'd never think it looking at it, just given the size of the other candles. Just going back to the chat, I said that I'm looking at the setup idea with the stat map, and this is what it looked like, right? Like when price was way up here at market open, I was still looking for that move higher to tag this level, right? That's what gave me that trend filter, the bias to go long. And it worked. And then I think even this morning, 8:31, I was just kind of going through what was happening with the price. And this is what it looked like at 8:30 in the morning. This is what it looked like. And I thought, well, hey, showing support off of the daily manipulation level here, I'm looking for price to move higher. Right? go back to the chart, you have SMT here, right? And then you had SMT here. Not sure about this play on this side. I mean, what that would have looked like, but that probably would have been, I don't know if that would have been a win or not, but this one was a win. So just showing you, here's the SMT, here's the FVG, right? It still worked out. So, and that was pre-market. Crazy. That was pre-market. Vic says, thank you for the continued teaching. I've added so much more to the arsenal and have a way better understanding of my trading these days. My goodness, that is such a huge weight off your back, probably. I remember that feeling when I kind of started to have things click. This is some serious in-depth trading alongside what you're thinking. Almost a step-by-step, and it's helped immensely. Well, I appreciate you, Vic, and I'm happy that I'm able to help, man. Honestly. I'm not doing this for any sort of accolade, as you guys know. I'm not charging you guys anything. These live streams are just for you guys, this community. So if you know about it, then you know. I posted on Twitter today saying, hey, I don't know if anybody knows, but I do live streams twice a week inside Ashtrade's public Discord, the free Discord. And as you guys know, like, I have no problem going all in, sharing what I have, with the intent that I want you guys to succeed. And I want to succeed myself too. I want us all to reach those goals. Because I don't know if people know. And, you know, the key word here is free. Free. If anyone ever wants to support me, the best way you can support me is just by, if you are subbing to anything, I would just say, hey, sub to something I have, like a link for, like an affiliate link. That's the only thing I would ever ask for as a support. And it's not mandatory. I just say, if you want to support me that way, you can. Jockbit says, thanks so much for sharing, Kira, as always, and may you be blessed more and all who are part of the support group in this amazing or awesome community. Godspeed. Yes, sir. God bless you as well, man. Oh, thanks, Alice. Appreciate that, man. I'm just a dude, man. Kira is not goated. Kira is a dude. Just a dude. Just a dude. Anyone have any other questions? I'm just going to take a quick peek to see what we're dealing with right now. Because I remember we saw all that good news. Let's just X this out. So this is what we're at right now. This is what it looks like. Price is way up here. If I go back to the stat map, kind of consolidating. Maybe there's going to be a final push during power hour. Who the hell knows? What's ES up to? Just get back to standard here. Let's just delete everything on the chart. Touch some grass. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what? And once again, it's Friday. How many of us are sad that it's Friday? Bobby says these streams are very informative and helpful. Thanks for doing this. Oh, thanks for showing up, man. Thanks for being a part of it, man. Honestly. Oh, it says, I have a question for the people in here. Are you touching grass this weekend? Honestly, I said this last week, and I will continue to say this on Friday streams, that if you are still trying to put things together, if you're not finding the success that, you know, you believe you should be finding, because we all have that, you know, element of confidence, and you know, obviously we're visualizing what it, you know, our success, and really trying to, you know, bask in the feeling of what that could feel like when you haven't actually tangibly seen the success. If you're kind of in that position, I'm not going to say this to hurt anybody's feelings or anything, but if you are in this type of situation, you got to take time when the market is not running to study, to practice, continue to educate yourself. You have to kind of go through these motions. I think anyone who's on the other side of that fence, who have already found success, understand their plan, understand their mindset, meaning they understand their weaknesses and their strengths. Those people are presumably going to be taking the weekend off, not looking at the chart. I'm at a point now where I don't do that anymore. I don't actually just actively look at the charts. Like, I turn it off and I go spend time with my kids. I spend time with my wife. We go on, like I'm at that point now where I'm able to enjoy it. But I will tell you, I've spent the past few years literally spending every waking moment studying, watching Matt's live streams, studying other traders, right? I've mentioned a bunch of them today, studying them, talking to them, practicing. I've sacrificed so much time with my family, so much like of my own emotional bandwidth, mental health deteriorated in some ways, of course, because who wants to lose, right? Imagine, like, I'm sure we've all done this, but like I've blown so many accounts that, I almost flipped my table and I wanted to quit. I wanted to destroy everything. Like you have that type of rage. Like I've been there and it sucks. But I can tell you it's necessary, man. Like it's truly necessary. You need to feel that pain because at some point you're going to say enough is enough. And, if you're someone like me and you believe in that higher power, like for me, that's what happened. Like I just surrendered myself to Jesus and I'm like, dude, literally throw me a lifeline, man. Like I can't believe this is happening to me. Like I've done all of this and what do I have to show for it? And honestly, ever since that day, like I have had a trajectory in the complete opposite way. Think of it like a reversal trade going in the right direction, right? The start of a monster trade. That's what it feels like right now for me. And things have just been clicking. So, you know what? All things are possible with God, in my opinion. And honestly, even if you don't believe, that's totally cool. You still have to put the work in. That's kind of the point. You still have to put the work in. You still have to go through the pain. And then eventually things are going to start clicking to you. And ultimately, you are only going to hold yourself responsible and you're going to realize that. Like, you're going to start saying to yourself, I can no longer keep repeating the same stupid mistakes I keep doing. The FOMO, the panic. You know what I'm saying? So, failure is a delayed success. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, that's the other thing, too, is like we all got to believe in ourselves. You know what I mean? You got to believe in yourself that you can do this. Even if you're not seeing the tangible results, like you got to hold that belief. If you are able to understand ICT concepts in the way that I believe you are, right? Understanding higher time frame, market structure alignment, the different types of entry functions like a unicorn or an IFVG, you have accessed a skill that the majority of the world does not know. Think about that. You are in line with a huge advantage to move mountains. Honestly, you are in line for huge moves. It's coming. It's coming. And just like Allah said, right? Failure is a delayed success. 100%. Rick says, and by the way, shout out Rick, man. I know you posted the other day. I know you don't post much, but yeah, I remember you posted. So, shout out to you and some of the trades you got going on. Looks like you got some similar things going on as well. So, that's amazing. And he says, bro, that's where I'm at now. Glad trading things are starting to click more for me. Hashtag surrender to Jesus. Yeah, man. This is off topic, but I believe there's a war on consciousness. There's a war on spirituality out there. And the reason I say this, because every time I look outside, and I say outside, metaphorically speaking, as to the news, it's just like we got psychopaths running this world. Like, what's happening here? People can't be that psychopathic, right? Like, my neighbor can't be like that. My community can't be like that. When I show up to talk to people here, no one here is like that. So, like, what's going on out there? There's a war. There's a war on our spirituality, in my opinion. So I feel like we got to continue to, believe in ourselves, put faith in the big man up there, G-O-D, and just remember, it's without him, things are just going to be harder, in my opinion. But with him, all things are possible. All things are always possible. So I'll end my stream there with you guys. Once again, shout out to all of you guys. Shout out to anybody who's catching the replay. I really do hope you have a great weekend. If you're one of those people, like I said, that are studying this weekend, you can always hit me up, okay? You can always hit me up on DM. I'm always available. If I don't respond right away, I will. I promise you. So if you are one of those people and you have a question, if you're stuck doing something or you just want to bounce an idea, hit me up with a DM. I promise you I'll hit you back. And anyone that has already been doing that, then you know what I'm talking about. All right, folks. Once again, God bless all of you. And I wish you an amazing weekend. And I'm excited to take a break. And at the same time, I'm also a bit sad because the market's closed, and I'm like, I feel like when Monday starts, like you're just slowly getting back in the groove, and then once you're kind of hit your stride, it's Friday. You know what I'm saying? It's Friday, and you got to start all over again. So with that, peace out, folks. God bless you, and I wish you nothing but the best. Thanks again for the stream.